back outside Nigeria now. Let me ask, because we're speaking, I was going to ask a question to Mr. Leakey, but I think he's still speaking more of skills, getting yourself valuable. I'll ask Mrs. Adofwa, since I don't have a skill that could be monetized and my job is at stake, what can I do if eventually I'm laid off? It says that there are some jobs that are like HR, front desk, that these jobs are the highest in terms of predictive of professional to be at risk. When I saw this question, because I run an HR certification center, I did not agree to it, but I didn't want to throw it away because the person that sent to me might be in this house now. So I wanted us to deal with it because I don't believe HR is one of these jobs that is not seen as a technical job. HR has moved beyond what you think is just recruitment and just promotion or compensation. It's moved beyond that. HR is even more like an engineer, does a lot of analysis. So, well, I will just give this floor to Mr. Adofwa to explain, probably not just HR, like front desk now. And like Mr. Leakey said, you don't need a gatesman in the bank for the bank to operate. So, since I don't have a skill that could be monetized and my job is at stake, what can I do if eventually I'm laid off?
All right, thanks for the question. You know, I really appreciate the pointers that the other speakers pulled out. So I'll just throw a little more light on that. First thing is, from the question, all business skills can be monetized, but it really depends on the demand at the time, right? So now with COVID-19, using the same example of the HR front desk space, and like you said, the HR front desk role has advanced. Now we have people doing virtual assisting, right? So if you already have a skill that you feel can't be monetized at this time, you should start thinking about how you can digitalize that skill, because now we're all working remotely. And I wouldn't say that companies aren't hiring. Companies are still hiring, but it's a lot more digital now. So you probably want to look at the skill that you have and find ways of improving that skill, maybe thinking a lot more into the digital area and finding jobs in that space. So for the front desk, if you were a front desk assistant or a front desk personnel, you are already working with customers, you're working with clients, you're working with visitors to your company, and that's a typical customer support role that you can work with. You can do virtual assisting, you can take on customer care jobs that can be used via online platforms. So back to that again, I think Dr. Faith mentioned something about improving upon the skill that you have. You may, I won't say you should think about your skill not being monetized at this point in time, but think of how you can improve that skill and use it as the current situation demands. Yeah.
So my point I'll take from your, what you just mentioned is there's no skill that cannot be monetized.
Yeah.
So,
no business skill.
There's no business that can be monetized. You just have to reinvent yourself out. That's it. Mm-hmm. I want to leave the floor to audience to ask questions. Someone is raising hand here. Ms. Winifred, are you raising your hand for attention?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, hold on, ma. I will give you the floor to you. I want participants to put in questions in the chat box. I may not be able to open your mic so we don't make it disorganized. You can put your questions, your name will appear from it, and I can ask the questions. If you want the question to be answered by any particular speaker, talk about it. Speak directly that this person should answer this question. Thank you. So, Ms. Winifred, yes, I'm with you. Ms. Winifred.
Okay. So I'm here. Oh, sorry. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. I really appreciate what. Okay. I really appreciate what Mr. Delfo said, but I also want to I think that people should also note that the fact that you're laid off doesn't necessarily mean that you're not good. Sometimes people get laid off out of maybe the organization cannot pay you, um, you know, financial difficulties, the economy, what have you. So getting laid off, even though it's not necessarily a positive, you know, I think that you could, some people, what I've seen over time is that when people get laid off, it gives them the opportunity to sit back and think about where they have been, where they're coming from, and see if it's something that, you know, they have been doing right all along, or if the journey to where they're going, they are properly.
Is it from here? I think it's from our side. Well, I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to
We lost her a bit. On mute. Unmute your mic. We can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes. The network was misbehaving from there. So you were saying people should not be scared of being late for several reasons.
Yes, exactly.
So that some organizations may not be able to financially afford to pay, and that's the reason for laid off.
Exactly.
You feel maybe your skill is the one. So, but I've been at HR. There are avenues where you can ask questions for the reason why you have been asked to go, so that you can know what to do in moving forward, isn't it? Did you hear me?
Yes. Even if the organization knows what they're doing, what should happen is they should communicate this to staff before implementing whatever they decide to implement. So it's easier when an organization communicates exactly what's happening within the organization to say, look, this is it, we're struggling, we're doing this, and then lay them off. You know, that kind of layoff is taking better than, you know, not saying anything at all and then just, you know, saying, look, I have to let you go.
Okay. I'm expecting questions to come in. This section is actually a 1 hour, 30-minute section. We started quite late and we have to keep to the time. Our speakers have things to do, and I believe other people have things to do, so that we don't just keep talking, same thing. I'm expecting questions. This is an opportunity for you to ask whatever things in doubt as regards business, your career, your skill, except we have treated some of these questions. Now, how do you advise, I want to ask Mr. Femi now. Mr. Femi. Mr. Femi. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. You mentioned how you were able to develop as soon shop at that period, and then how are you able to navigate? I don't know your staff strength as regards the capacity of employees at that time. Did you have to keep some off, or some are still, all of them are still working with you?
Okay, so let me.
You're trying an innovation for the first time.
Yeah.
And then you don't know, although someone spoke about data, you don't know the outcome, and you don't want to keep promising this same employee that, okay, it will still be the same with that same innovation.
Okay, let me. I might have to take a bit of time to answer that question.
Okay.
So basically, most of the speakers have said some things that, which is very, very, it has to be pertinent. You must have it in everybody's day-to-day or entrepreneurship skill set, or if you're trying to develop yourself. The first thing is that you must develop yourself and develop and understand where you want to actually go. Like, you must have a skill set. So when you have that skill set, try and develop that skill set, because it's better to be developed and be ready without having an opportunity than have the opportunity and you're not ready. So if you develop yourself, if you have the skill set, if the opportunity comes for you, you're able to like adapt ASAP. So what I did was that we developed our skill sets, making sure that we were empowering ourselves, doing more events and everything. So in our business line, what we found out was, or what I found out was, people wanted my services, but they wanted it in, so number one, they didn't want to have, because the only way they could contact me then was you must have a party. So if you don't have a party, we can't cater for you because it doesn't make sense for us. So catering was quite expensive for each person. So people wanted the food in smaller bits. So we're not fine, okay, fine. People wanted the food in smaller bits. And secondly, they wanted it all far and wide. So the first problem we encountered was, how can we get the food to our customers in smaller packs all over the UK? So that was a problem because we just felt like, what method would you use to preserve the food? So I started researching. I saw companies that were doing ready meals. So ready meals are like food that has already been cooked, calorie, nutrition has always been placed, and it's different varieties. And what they do is that they cook it, they blast chilling. Blast chilling is a process where you cool the temperature of the food after taking it out from the fire or from the oven. It goes down to 0 degrees. So and from there you can easily pack your food and freeze and take it to the freezer and or chillers or whatever it is. So we're not saying, okay, fine. Well, but once you do that, you needed to get vacuum packed sealants in the sense that you need to, how do you get the food from not leaking by the time you process it or send it to your customers? So sending it to your customers was like, okay, fine. If they get it, the food is not leaked, is it still frozen and is in the right temperature. So after doing that, we now decided, okay, fine. The next thing is to find a temperature-controlled insulated boxes. So those boxes, what they do is that they keep the food frozen or within that temperature for 48 hours. So even though you are sending the food to someone in, like, let's say, from Lagos to Abuja, next day courier service, because we have a better courier service network, which in Lagos, in Nigeria, most of the problem is always the transport link for courier services. But if I send something in the London today, the next day, in Manchester, they can get it. But you must have it that the food is still safe for them to eat it. So the only way, so you have to look for the processes. So getting those processes were researches. So when I started, before COVID, I've already gotten the companies I was going to use, the courier service, the machine for sealants. I've gotten the process right. But I now started the restaurant. So we were busy doing the restaurant. The restaurant took most of our time. And that business was just laying fallow. It wasn't doing anything. So after COVID now started, we were shut down for 3 weeks. And I thought to myself, like, this is the time for me to just start this business. So I started myself, doing it myself only. Then the success was a lot. Like, I was doing multiple orders. I was sending orders out almost every day. So I had to like break it down into two different dates in a week to send it. And I found out that I couldn't do it by myself alone. And I moved, because I'm in my restaurant right now. So I now moved to my restaurant. And I had to come and start joining me to do it together. So before, in the restaurant, we would need like 5-6 people to do this job. But now, with the e-commerce platform, we are just 2. So I have the chef that's doing the cooking, I am doing the packaging, and I'm doing the logistics. So you streamline your employee line, you bring it down, and it reduces overheads at the end of the day. And that's what a lot of companies will do. Mine is a small scale company. So you can imagine large companies, big companies, organizations all over the world, they will always try to reduce people working from home or take out people that they don't even need at all. So answering that question, that's my own experience of how I dealt with my e-commerce.
Thank you. We've learned so much. I want to ask someone this question. Mr. Leakey, are you here? Mr. Leakey?
I'm with you.
Yes.
I'm with you.
I want to ask a question. Some people go through these experiences, but especially when you work with small organizations. And the question says, when my salary is not consistent, despite giving all, we've said have more skills, add more value, but despite, that